The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview, looking at the Borders clubs in action tomorrow. Robin Purdie joins me again, and another week has gone by and we're getting ever closer to finding out who's going to be promoted or relegated, or in the case of the Premiership, which 4 teams will make the playoffs. So let's start with the Premiership and look at last weekend's results. Ayr 45, Mar 0, Watsonians 29, Currie 20, Glasgow Hawks 21, Edinburgh Accies 17, Kelso 30, Melrose 19, Musselburgh 10, Heriot 60, and Selkirk 34, Hawick 15. So a bit of a mix there, Robin, isn't it, between obvious results and some very close ones that are very meaningful.
Oh, definitely. Pretty much all the games are meaningful when you get to the business end, as we are now. And yeah, Ayr v Mar, you call it a routine win for Ayr. Ayr were very impressive. You watch it on the TV, but Mar have come away with nothing there. Not a solitary point. They never breached the whitewash, never kicked a penalty. But my word, they got stuck in Ayr. They got really, really stuck in Ayr. I was actually very impressed by Mar, and if they can apply that level of endeavour for the rest of the season, they might just claw their way out of the predicament.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because they lost 45-0, so on paper you would think, oh my goodness. But we were hearing from Grant Baird afterwards, and he said, I'm really proud of the boys, the way they stuck in and all the rest of it. So obviously, results don't always dictate what happened in the match.
That's right. I mean, the table would tell you, and anybody that's seen any Premiership rugby this season knows that it's a mismatch. Other than Heriot's, and there was the blip against Currie, pretty much everybody over years a mismatch, and that's to Ayer's credit. That's no slur to anybody else. But yeah, Mar just got tore so much in about them, and they've come away with nothing. But teams have suffered heavier reversals at that than that at Millbrae. So yeah, that was as predicted. Watsonians Currie, I found that a really tough one to call. I think that's a really good result for Watsonians. Didn't see that much of it, but I think they were under the cosh a wee bit. Not much going their way in the first half. Yeah, Currie have come away. You see 20 points and you don't automatically think, well, they've got anything there, but 4 unconverted tries. So they come away from a game against the next Super Series team with a point, not a catastrophe. But I think they might have been after a wee bit more than that, and they got the 4 tries, of course. Glasgow Hawks v Edinburgh Accies. Big win that for Hawks. They're in a pretty good place at the moment. They've done Kelso a big favour there as well. Accies, I think, based on what I was seeing as I was commentating at Selkirk, Accies were up for some of that game, so that's maybe the one that...
It's a last minute try, I think, for Glasgow
last minute
Hawks,
try, my word. So that's the one that got away, and that's done Kelso no end of a favour. But Kelso could only control on Saturday what they could control, and that's a brilliant win against Melrose. Talk about the home games, we've spoken about it so often. They've won the home game, and they now find themselves out of the drop zone. Andy Tate, I don't think you can put a price on him coming back. That sort of calming influence, experience in that key position of 9. Melrose just in a wee bit of a rut at the moment, which is bizarre, because since the turn of the year it's almost coincided with, for me, by far and away their best player is Alan Ferry, and he's playing out of his skin, it would appear, since he's came back. But it's coincided with Melrose rut, so go figure. But yeah, Melrose could do with a victory in the not too distant. It's hard to see it coming this weekend, but yeah, Musselburgh v Heriot's, convincing win for Heriot's. Nothing for Musselburgh. That was as predicted, unfortunately, for Musselburgh. Heriot's just go about their business. Very impressive indeed. And yeah, Selkirk v Hawick, I was at that game. What a game it was. Stuart, really enjoyed it. 2 teams absolutely went hammer and tong at each other, but I can't remember a handbag session. I can't remember too much of that kind of stuff, but they really did put some shots in on each other, bone jarring stuff. And yeah, another brilliant win for Selkirk. I was very, very impressed by Hawick, though, I have to say. The commitment, it's hard to see another team that play for the badge, as they say, like Hawick do, and they really did on Saturday there. They are down to the bare bones, but they got tore right into Selkirk. But Selkirk just had that bit of extra quality and looked like a team that play a lot of rugby together. Corey Tate, absolutely different class once again.
Premiership table then looks like this. Ayr 76 points, Heriot 75. Both have won 15 games and lost 1. 505 points difference now for Ayr, which is extraordinary. Watsonians have 56 points. Selkirk move into the playoff positions with 47. Currie 44. Melrose 40. Glasgow Hawks 36. Hawick 35. Kelso 30, moving out of the relegation, which means Edinburgh Accies move in to the relegation zone for the first time this season. They are on 28, Mar 20, but they have 2 games in hand, and Musselburgh with 14 points. So tonight's match is Currie under the lights once again. They love it there, and they're taking on Musselburgh, and really should be pretty straightforward, this one.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Stuart, Currie, very much in the shake-up for that 4th place. You know, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Watsonians could get caught in 3rd. I think Selkirk and Currie both have a game in hand over them as well, so plenty to play for Currie. But yeah, tonight under the lights, probably a decent crowd. You'd fancy them to pick up the 5 points there. Musselburgh, you know, they'll get stuck in as they always do. I always think that every time I see Musselburgh, they never throw in the towel. It looks a long way back for them now at the bottom of the table, but they never throw in the towel.
Edinburgh Accies against Kelso, probably the most important game of the season so far for both these clubs. Here's Director of Rugby at Kelso, Neil Hinnigan.
One we could do to get a win, just to stay out of the bottom 3. Very much an important game now. It's great that we've gotten ourselves out of this position to give ourselves a chance. That was all we could ask for. You know, certainly before Christmas, we're now in the mix for potentially staying up, but the hard work really starts now with games coming thick and fast, and you know, this is one we need to at least get something out of. So yeah, a bit of pressure on us, same as there will be for Accies, so it should be a tight game. We lost quite heavily in the end at Pointer Park to them, kind of fell off the wagon a little bit the last half hour at home, and you know, they went up the road with 5 points. So yeah, it's one to try and turn over again for us, that we're on the right side of it, and level the score with them, which would then give us a good footing for going forward from here.
So, always interesting to hear what Neil has to say there. Kelso, though, 2 points ahead of Accies. Accies do have a far superior points difference at the moment, so comparing the run-ins there, you've got them in front of you. Some very, very interesting fixtures still to come.
Yeah, that's right, sure. You can't underestimate the importance of this game. Is it a playoff, you know, a relegation playoff? No, we're not quite at that level yet, but it's going to go a long way to determining who goes down at the end of the season, I feel. I've always sort of said, you know, Kelso have got fixtures in their favour in the second half of the season. You know, some of the teams in and around them, they play at home. You know, they've got Hawks to play at home, they've got Hawick to play at home, Currie to play at home as well. But then you look at Accies, you know, Accies have got Kelso at home first up, they've got Mar at home, they've got Melrose at home, so Accies have not got it too drastic as well. So it just, you know, all the more importance on tomorrow. And Accies have obviously done okay in Glasgow last weekend, but Selkirk have gone up there to Accies the week before, and you know, on the face of it, had a pretty easy time of it. So I think Kelso will be going all guns blazing tomorrow, and if they come out the other end of a tight one, I wouldn't be at all surprised. But I also wouldn't be at all surprised if Accies pick up something at least from the game, if not a win as well.
That's a 2 o'clock kick-off tomorrow, and Hugh Brown will be following that one for us. Also playing in the capital, Heriots against Selkirk. We've got Sam Matthews going there. Also at 2 o'clock in the capital, Heriots against Selkirk. This is going to be very tasty indeed. Sam Matthews is going to be there for us, and after losing 4 on the trot, Selkirk have won 5 on the trot. Selkirk head coach Sesh Henderson.
It's just going to be another tough game for us to keep on coming week in, week out now, and that's a challenge for us. We've analysed them a fair bit, and you know, they play a good brand of rugby. They score a lot of points. They scored 7 tries against us down at Philiphaugh to beat us, but we also scored similar 6 tries against them. So we've got to go up there, and when you go away from home, and the way we played the last, you know, that's 5 wins in the trot for us, we've got to go up there with a bit of confidence, a bit of belief, and you know, we're putting in huge 80-minute performances just now, and we need to do that and more perhaps up there and come away with points. We want to stay where we are, and it's going to be tough, but that's a challenge for the boys. They're excited about it. They're buzzing to get up to Edinburgh on Saturday. You know, Golden Acres is a good track to play on, so it suits our style of play. Just on the squad, it's, you know, after the Hawick game, the boys were sore. You know, a lot of big hits going in, pretty attritional. So 2 or 3 guys on the physio table tonight just to see what they can do on Saturday. So the squad's not been finalised yet, but Callum Smythe and Mark Bennett from Edinburgh Rugby are available to us this week, which which would be good to get their input, but what it does, it also gives an opportunity just to manage some players' game time, keep them a wee bit more fresher, just because we've still got 7 games to go, 2 Border League games to go, so a lot of rugby to be played yet up until the middle of April. So it's about managing players through games now, and when we can, and when we're given that opportunity. But for Saturday, it's going up to Golden Acre and just give it the best shot we can, and come away with something which would be pleasing.
So no one this year has breached the Golden Acre fortress.
No, and it'll take some team to do that. Stuart, they've not played there as yet. Heriots, that's going to be some ding dong both of those games when they do eventually lock horns. But Selkirk, on current form, Selkirk are the best of the rest at the moment. They've strung 5 wins together. They've got a monumentally settled look to their squad. They've got a bit of strength and depth bench wise as well. So they will go there in the best of fettle. But I think for me, say it all season, if they can come away from that game tomorrow, as they did in the reverse fixture against Heriots, if they can come away with anything tomorrow, I think that represents a pretty good afternoon's work. Of
course, interestingly, I think I'm right in saying Selkirk have scored more points against Heriots than any other team so far.
Selkirk have tries in the locker. You just need to look at their back line for a start. But you look at who's in the front row, or who's wearing number 6 in the last couple of weeks. Corey Tate, he's up to 11 for the season. Yeah, Selkirk can breach defences. Callum Anderson, Pickles, Josh Welsh, Grant Sutty, Aaron McComb pulling the strings. Alderson's a great player as well. So they've got tries in the locker, and like I say, if they can get 4 of those tomorrow, then it's potentially been game on. But they're coming back down the road with at least something from the second hardest place to go in the league at the moment.
So that's Heriots against Selkirk. Also 2 o'clock, Mar against Watsonians. Mar have 2 games in hand, but 10 points adrift of Kelso, 8 away from Edinburgh Accies, and they'll need to pull out all the stops at Fullerton Park to get past Watsonians. But the City side have lost 6 games this season, so definitely a chance for Mar if they hit the straps on the day.
Banana skin for Watsonians this one, Stuart, and I maybe wouldn't have said that before I seen Mar against there last Friday night. If Mar can apply the same level of grit and determination and work rate and all those kind of things, then that's going to be a tricky assignment for Watsonians. And I think Mar will have this marked on the calendar, as they will with all their home games in their quest for survival. But Watsonians could have it tough down there tomorrow, and it's a tough one to call.
2 3 o'clock kickoffs tomorrow. Hawick against Hawks. The Greens with injury issues and coming off the back of a loss to Selkirk last week. We get the thoughts now of Hawick head coach Graham Hogg.
Fair to say we're bitterly disappointed with the result last Saturday against Selkirk in the Border Derby. We felt we'd prepped well in the 2 weeks leading up to the game, but just unfortunately on the day we came out second best. Selkirk were 100% the better team. We've analysed the game, and the more I look at it, the more frustrated I get, to be perfectly honest with you. But I felt 40 minutes we really fronted up. We defended really well that first 40 minutes, apart from just a couple of individual errors which cost us. I think they got probably 14 points from a couple of missed tackles in a few phases of play, which we can't do at this level. And then second half, I just felt probably because of how hard we had to work that first half defensively, our attack just didn't function. We didn't get to where we wanted to do in regards to our shape, and obviously executing what we'd spoke about in the week leading up to that game. But fair play to Selkirk. They were worthy winners, and I wish them all the best for the rest of the season. Looking forward to this week. We've obviously got what people are saying is turning into a must-win game against Glasgow Hawks. It's obviously vital for us being a home game, and off the back of last week's performance. Apart from the game last Saturday, we felt like when we played Hawks first time round up at Balgray, that was probably our worst performance of the season. That's been spoken about this week, that we've got to right those wrongs from the last time, and boys have bought into what we're trying to do this week. That we've put an extra emphasis on boys doing their analysis and presenting to us as a group of coaches instead of the other way around this week, and just trying to get everybody making these next few weeks, which I think I spoke about last week, being a huge priority for this group and obviously for the club. So we go into the Hawks game, again, unfortunately, with a few more injuries. Russell Anderson's going to be out for a couple of weeks with the continuation of his neck/back problem, and unfortunately we lost Gareth Welsh at the weekend with a broken collarbone. But we've said we can use literally every excuse under the sun. Loads of teams go through these periods, these patches of injury, and it's our turn. Fortunately, you can say we haven't had that for probably the last 3 or 4 seasons, but now it's our turn and we just need to get through it. And certainly we're going to work as hard as we can, and it's not going to be through lack of effort. There's still plenty ability in our group, and we look forward to the challenge of Glasgow Hawks on Saturday.
Both mid-table, not out of the woods yet, but they do have a game in hand, so very important match for both.
Yeah, that's right, Stuart. Hoyk, you mentioned it there. They're really down to the bare bones. In the fortnight between having a game against Musselburgh and having a game against Selkirk, they seemingly lost 4 players at training, and one was kicked by his own horse. That's where they are at the moment. They've lost players to retirement, to going overseas, to wherever, and then they've got injuries, and then Jay Linton's out, and Morgan Tate potentially done his ACL and all those kind of things. So they really are down to the bare bones. But like Mar, I was so impressed with their application on Saturday in defeat to Selkirk. Players like Connor Sutherland and Fraser Rennick. We know they're warriors, but they really took it to Selkirk, and as I say, some of the hits in that game were absolutely bone juddering. I could feel them from the stand. So Hawks on the road last time they were on the road at Melrose, brilliant result, that draw there. Hoyk at home, never going to be a pushover. Hoyk at even this season's full strength, still without Dalton Redpath at this season's full strength, I would say Hoyk to have enough. But given where Hoyk are predicament-wise, injury-wise, I'm not so sure. Now,
the other 3 o'clock kick-off is Melrose against Ayr. Now, not so long ago, in the days before Super 6, the big Premiership game was always Melrose against Ayr. Things are a wee bit different now, but these two can still get the juices flowing. And here's co-head coach of Melrose, Scott White.
I think, look, I've been quite open and saying it through the week as well, that we've just no hit our strides in 2025 for whatever reason, given or taking. That Selkirk away, Hawks at home, and Kelso away. But the reality is, it doesn't come any easier this week. And it's probably the wrong thing to say, but essentially it's a free hit in terms of the expectations are against us, backs are against the wall, and that's certainly the kind of messages that we've been giving the players this week, and the importance about just having a crack. If we sit back and wait on somebody doing it, or sit back and wonder, the reality is we'll be on the receiving end of a scoreboard the same as everybody else has this year in terms of struggle. The reality is they're at the top of the league for a reason. With Herets, they're strong. They've got a strong pack. They're very strong behind the scrum as well, and they offer threats all over the pitch. So this week's all about us, and just what can we do when we've not got the ball, and what can we do with when we've got the ball, and trying to be more consistent over the 80 minutes. That's probably our biggest issue. When we're good with ball, we've scored some bloody ridiculous tries this year, but there's too many times that we make simple mistakes by no concentrating, lack of communication, so these are all things that we speak about weekly. So it's just about being more consistent over 80 minutes. We'll give it a crack. Team selection wise this week, there's no new injuries, so the majority of the squad that played last week against Kelso will be available. Unfortunately, Angus Runciman, he's the only one that's unavailable for selection this week, but Angus Weir will come back into the mix. He's fit, so like for like kind of replacement in terms of both very good in the loose. Obviously, Angus Runciman captain, a wee bit leadership, but other boys will have to step up to the fore. So it's farmers' lunch as well, so it's a big day at the club, so it's important we put our performance.
Scott White there. Well, I mentioned before that about the fact that any game between Melrose and Ayr is always going to attract attention.
Oh, definitely. I think there's still something there. Stuart, they built up a brilliant, respectful rivalry pre-Super Series, and I think a wee bit of that still exists. When we seen them duke it out in National 1 in recent times, there was still that sort of that edge to it. It was still spoken about these two modern greats in terms of Scottish club rugby, and I think Ayr will be coming across tomorrow very much looking to put one on Melrose. It's the free hit. It's a game against Ayr, and again, if Melrose can come away with 4 tries even, I think that'll be a pretty good effort. But they've just lost their way a wee bit, it would seem, since the break there, and you have to fancy it, Ayr tomorrow. The likes of Ferry in the ranks for Melrose. If Melrose can front up front, Ferry's never going to take a back step, and Angus Runciman is never going to take a back step. If they can pull the rest of them up to their level, then there's a squeak of a chance. But you look at that Ayr squad, you look how well drilled they are. Kick it in the corner, get the line out, score a try. It's almost as simple as that. So tough gig for Melrose tomorrow, but it's still got that sort of Melrose Ayr feel. There's still an extent of that for me.
It is still a bit baffling, though, isn't it? The fact that they won against Curry, put 43 points on Curry at the Green Yards, and Alan Ferry comes back, and since then they haven't won a match.
Yeah, and like I say, the most bizarre thing is playing out of his skin. I mean, he's almost unstoppable when he gets ahead of steam up. Very, very few players carry like him. And for me, he walks into any team in the league. He walks straight in the air team for me. So I don't know. Is there an over expectation on him from the other 14 players? You know, the old mini rugby will give our biggest guy the ball and he'll score 4 or 5 tries every game. I don't know. I don't think so, of course. But it's bizarre because he's arguably been the league's best player since he came back.
Well, bound to be a good atmosphere, and that's our commentary match. You'll be down there tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, sure to be a good occasion. Been to a few Melrose Air games over the years, and looking forward to tomorrow's one as well.
Well, let's switch to National 1 then, go over the results from last week. Biggar 21, GHA 34, Glasgow Accies 52, Jed Forest 24, Boroughmuir 41, Highland 22, Peebles 38, Dundee 20 and Stirling County 43, Gala 10.
Interesting games in there as well. GHA, that's a good result for them at Biggar. That could have been definitely a banana skin, and it looks like it's a relative degree of comfort there. Glasgow Accies fancied them to beat Jed, but I think Jed came away with a point in the end, would I be right in saying? So I think that makes them mathematically safe now, which with 2 games to go, I think that's a pretty good effort. As I said last week, for Jed, given the nature of the league this season, I don't think that's a bad outcome. They'll be hoping it doesn't peter out too much. A couple more away games to come, starting tomorrow. Boroughmuir v Highland, that was the big game of the weekend in National 1.
That could have wrapped it up for Highland, I think.
Yeah, I think Highland, if they'd come away with that with 5 points, would have just about been over the line, but they've not. They've come away with very little, and Boroughmuir have got the 5 points, so that gives them a bit of a boost, but that helps Peebles. Speaking of Peebles, they got the job done against Dundee. It was always going to be the case. You have to get 5 points in that game, and they got exactly that, and they progressed. But yeah, it's tight at the bottom now. Well, Dundee are gone. Came unstuck against Peebles, but my word, it's tight at the bottom with the other 3, Peebles, Highland and Boroughmuir. And Stirling, Gala looked like they made a good start.
10-0 up, yeah.
10-0 up, going pretty well at scrum time, I believe, and then Stirling hit their straps, and they got the 5 points that they need, but they're running out of road now as well.
Let's have a look at that table then in National 1. It's a GHA at the top, 75 points, unbeaten, just that draw blip with Stirling County. Stirling County still have a game in hand, but they're on 66 points. Glasgow Accies 58, would have been more, would have been 63 if they hadn't had 5 points docked for fielding an ineligible player. Gala 42, Jed Forest 41, Biggar 36 with 1 point docked. Peebles 30 now out of the relegation zone, but Highland also have 30, Boroughmuir 28 and Dundee 11, and whichever way you look at it, with just 3 games remaining with Dundee, the most they can get is 25. That's not good enough.
They're relegated, unfortunately for them. You'd like to think they can bounce back, and the more decent teams there are in that part of the country, the better. Because Aberdeen Grammar are down the divisions now, and you hope the same fate doesn't come on to Dundee. But yeah, this division, it's just jeopardy at the bottom. No matter where you leak, and it's going to be. There are some big fixtures this weekend.
And let's have a look at them, because Biggar have another home tie. They're playing Dundee, already relegated, as we say. So Biggar, 1 win away from being pretty safe, you would think, from relegation issues. And we've hardly talked about them in the same breath, to be perfectly honest. Surely this week they'll get the result that they need.
Yeah, you'd have to assume so, Stuart. That would take them to minimally 40 points. 41 points potentially, and that will be enough. They've been a solid mid-table team this season, Biggar.
Peebles will certainly be looking for Jed Forest to do them a favour, take points off their relegation rivals, but Boroughmuir posted a big win last week at home to Highland, as we mentioned, which has kept their hopes alive. So it's Boroughmuir against Jed Forest. It's not taking place at Meggetland. It's been moved to Mireside because this is a rearranged fixture, and there's a football match already booked, so it's a neutral venue. Let's hear from Jed head coach Stuart Johnson.
Travel up to Edinburgh this weekend to Mireside actually to play Boroughmuir. Obviously, it's going to be a tough fixture. Boroughmuir have been going really well recently, and they're still sitting in that relegation zone, so they're going to be desperate for a win. But if you look at the results recently as well, they're actually playing some obviously really good rugby. Putting 40 points on Highland isn't an easy task. So look, we know we're going to have to be on it this weekend. And look, to be honest, we need points as well. We could still end up in that bottom three. If we don't pick up any more points and results don't go our way, then we could end up there. So look, it's probably a big game for both teams. In terms of us, we're fairly strong. Similar squad to Glasgow Accies last weekend. Lewis Young should hopefully come back into it, and hopefully Gregor Law just to strengthen us up a little bit. But yeah, look, we're going up to Boroughmuir, expecting a tough game with them, and with both teams are needing points, so best team will come out on top after the game on Saturday.
So I mentioned it's now at Mireside. That's definitely going to help Jed.
You would have thought so. It's still a tough game. Brilliant win obviously against Highland for Boroughmuir, and Jed now officially with, and I don't mean this disparagingly, but you know, the job is done for Jed. They've got nothing to play for. It is a wee bit of a dead rubber for Jed, no matter how you look at it, whereas Boroughmuir could do with everything from this game, the full five. So it would suggest that Boroughmuir, you know, might shade this one. But yeah, Jed, a fully functioning, fully fit Jed squad going up there can do a number on Boroughmuir, absolutely. But yeah, I just fancy Boroughmuir to shade this one. Stuart just got more to play for.
Glasgow Accies against Peebles. Peebles have been competitive against the top teams this season. They now need to pull out a big performance against Accies on the road. Head coach of Peebles is Graham Patterson.
So our game last Saturday against Dundee, we achieved our objective, which was the 5 points. At times we made it pretty difficult for ourselves. 4 yellow cards in the game puts one hand behind your back sometimes, so there was some difficult paths to negotiate, but fair play to the boys, especially in that first half. I think we showed some real great attacking intent. One of the pleasing things was the way our set piece functioned, especially our line out. We had been under the pressure in the last few games from that, but we nailed our drills, really did, in terms of that. Just tweaked a few things and they came good. The training that we've put in over the last couple of weeks in terms of that has really shone through on Saturday. So 6 tries overall. Probably could have been a couple more had we maybe kept 15 boys on the park. We've obviously spoken about the discipline sort of side of things and how we let ourselves down in that. And the guys themselves felt as though they didn't do themselves justice defensively as well. They felt it was one of their poorest performances, which is pleasing to see in terms of they're still trying to get better and looking ahead to Saturday against Glasgow Accies. That's obvious. You know, they're one of the high-flying teams sitting in third. So we're under no illusions it's going to be a hard task. It's a big wide pitch, which obviously suits them in terms of the type of game that they play, but I think it'll suit us as well. We certainly go up there with the confidence of winning that last game, but also the confidence that we know that if we put in a really good performance, we're the ones that are really fighting, and maybe that's the 1% edge that we're looking for in this game. We definitely do need the points more than they do, and it's that willingness to maybe just push ourselves that wee bit further than what they might. I'm not trying to disrespect them in any way, shape or form. It's very much about guys on the pitch on the day pushing that wee extra 1% to do something to achieve a real boost to their season, you know, and that's what we were looking for. This could be a bit of a game changer of a weekend, you know, depending on how results go. It could really shake up that kind of relegation battle between what we thought was 3 teams. You know, you never know. We're looking for Jed to do us a favour at Boroughmuir, Stirling to do us a favour in terms of taking care of Highland, and to do ourselves a favour by getting a win on Saturday against Accies. Team-wise, fairly unchanged. Pretty strong pack that performed pretty well, and they'll be supplemented and supported by the guys that come off the bench. We know what's on the line. Some people are saying it's maybe a bit of a free hit going to get Accies, and it's not one that you're really looking to win, but we are looking to win this game. There is no doubt about it. We went up there a couple of years ago and won in a dog fight of a horrible day when it was chucking it down with rain. If we can get it to a fight, then we're the ones that are going to come out victorious. I truly believe that our boys are really committed to this cause in maintaining our National 1 status. So let's hope for a 4 or a 5 point victory on Saturday to see us on the way into the last couple of games against Boroughmuir and Highland.
So a tricky assignment, but if they can get something out of this, they're going to be reasonably happy, especially if results elsewhere go their way. Highland end with Dundee away, and of course Peebles at home for them as well. So we could end up with a shootout up at Canal Park, which is going to be tough for Peebles.
Oh wow, yeah, that would be quite something to end the season. But yeah, you're right, Stuart. If Peebles can and Peebles they've given the top teams problems this season, and if they can go to Glasgow Accies tomorrow, Glasgow Accies, good result against Jed last weekend. If they can go to Glasgow Accies and come away with a point, then they can go into what is essentially 2 cup finals against Boroughmuir and Highland. I'd like to think Peebles can go there tomorrow and pick something up. Can I see them winning the game? Yes, they can win the game. The bookies will have Glasgow Accies down as favourites, but Peebles to come away with anything would be great.
Gala against GHA at Netherdale. Ewan Welsh will be covering this one for us. Gala not great on the road again last weekend at Stirling, but at home they've been pretty good, and this is definitely a match that they could win. And also they'll be targeting a first loss for GHA as well to put a dent in that unbeaten record. Let's hear from head coach of the Maroons, Ewan Robbie.
Travelled up to Stirling, and what was going to be, we all knew it was going to be a big challenge there. We got off to a really good start. We were causing them a few problems. We scored the first try through Tim McCavan after some really good build-up play, and then after that we got some territory and we took a 3-point penalty. Stirling quality outfit, and they've got big, athletic guys there, and contented with the effort and the performance. The boys really stuck in, and they kept trying to attack towards the end there. The physicality of Stirling, it made it really hard for us to kind of break them down. But all in all, proud of the performance. Could have done. We obviously getting something out of the game for ourselves. I felt we deserved that. But moving on to this week, we've got top of league GHA coming down. Again, they'll be a physical threat. They can play rugby. Their set piece is really good, quite consistent, and they do cause you a few problems at set piece time. We'll be going all guns blazing. Again, the guys are like a different animal at home, and if we get in about them, it was a big points difference with Stirling coming down to Netherdale in relation to the game up there. It was really tight. We nearly beat them. We had the chance to beat them, so we've really got to put our best foot forward. There's a couple of kind of later players fitnesses we're looking at the moment, but our squad shouldn't be too changed from the squad that took the field at Stirling. But we may have Scott Peffers coming back in, who wasn't available for the Stirling County game. So just got to get sleeves rolled up again, get the same kind of attitude, determination that we have all the times that we do play at Netherdale, and look forward to the match.
So Gala comfortable on 42 points, and they'd like to get a few more by the end of the season, and they'd love to get the scalp of GHA.
Oh, I think so. And first of all, I've said it before, I think it's been a really good season for Gala. They're fourth, they're the best of the rest, effectively. They could have been seen at the start of the season to be one of the teams that, like Jed, like Peebles, like Biggar, pretty much them all, they could have got dragged into that, that battle for survival, and they've never really been in it, to be honest. And I think if you'd offered them that at the start of the season, they would have taken your hand off. Home form has been good. I think Stirling, said it a few times this season, and this is to GHA's credit, because GHA have come up with the goods every single time. Stirling will have one eye on this tomorrow. Could this be the snooker that Stirling need? Not an easy place to go. Stirling nearly came unstuck there, and I think Gala will be bang up for it tomorrow, and GHA might shade it, and if they do, Gala get something.
Stirling County against Highland. Stirling with their tri-bonus record still intact and pushing for promotion. Surely not going to let this one slip, especially after Highland's loss last week to Boroughmuir. I think Highland will certainly be targeting the last 2 games of the season, and again, if they get anything out of this one, that will be a bonus for them.
Definitely. The two sides with very different objectives, but the same level of desperation. I guess Stirling need the 5 points. Highland could really do with a win. Highland have definitely picked up, as the season's gone on. But Stirling, the likes of McKnight in the ranks, I think he scored a hat trick against Gala, the big winger. Playing way below his level at the moment. Highland, could have some burly Fijians in the back three as well. So there could be some fireworks there tomorrow. But yeah, Stirling to come away with the 5 points there. Highland again come away with a point or two they want to watch.
Let's move on to National 2 then and have a look at the table. Gordonians 9 points clear at the top with 54. Stuart's Melville have 45. Falkirk 35. GHK 33. Kirkcaldy 32. Berwick 27. Lasswade 23, Preston Lodge 21 and Newton Stewart 16. Quite a lot of changes in fact, because the results from last week were Berwick 29, GHK 14, Falkirk 36, Newton Stewart 17, Stewmel 34, Lasswade 20 and Kirkcaldy 27, Gordonians 30. Some interesting fixtures there. Berwick getting the double over GHK has certainly propelled them into a very good position. Falkirk coming back from being 14-0 down to bottom club Newton Stewart at home, eventually running out big winners there. Stewmel back to winning ways at the expense of Lasswade, and Kirkcaldy putting up a good fight at Beveridge Park, just losing out by 3 points to table toppers Gordonians, who have only lost once this year, and that was the first day of the season against Preston Lodge.
Yeah, real success story, Gordonians this season. They're going to win the league almost at a canter now, and you wouldn't have suggested that at the start of the season. So, but yeah, by the sounds of things, you're right. Kirkcaldy have put up a decent battle there as well. Brilliant win for Berwick against GHK. That's the double over them, and you're right, it really does propel them up the table. And they've got Kirkcaldy in their sights now as well. Falkirk done Berwick a favour, and it could have gone the other way, Newton Stewart being 14 points up at one point, as you say. But yeah, Falkirk have come good on that one. Another team that's done Berwick a favour, Stewmel as well. They've beaten Lasswade 34 points to 20. So yeah, all in all, a good weekend for Berwick.
A week off for Berwick this week, and destiny in their hands now. So we're at a crucial stage now. Most have just 4 games to play, some have a bit more.
Huge game tomorrow, Lasswade against Preston Lodge. What are there? That's third bottom against second bottom. That is monumental. There's sure to be fireworks.
From a Berwick point of view, as this is a Borders team, we can discuss this. They would prefer a Lasswade win, presumably.
Yes, I would say so. Looking at the table, yeah, a Lasswade win would suit Berwick. I would say Newton Stewart against Stewmel. It's looking a wee bit, less good for Newton Stewart now. They had those games in hand. Injury ravaged season. Stewmel second in the table, but Newton Stewart, not an easy task at all for Stewmel going through there. I fancy them maybe to come away with it, but Newton Stewart will have other ideas on that. GHK v Kirkcaldy, you fancy a home win. There's not much in the table there actually, but a home win there. And Gordonians v Falkirk, success story of the season in this division, Gordonians, and yeah, table suggests they'll win that one too.
Yep, first v third, but 19 points between them. Well, this is the Friday Rugby Preview on Rugby Radio, and so we turn our attention to matters in the East League. It's the East Bowl final tomorrow between Edinburgh Northern and Earlston, so a chance for a first piece of silverware this season for Earlston, who are also in prime position at the top of East League 3. Earlston head coach is Cammy Hill.
Last weekend we welcomed Inverleith to the Hawk, coming away with 71 points to 7 wins, so that's another 5 points on the board, and that extra step closer to the league, hopefully, especially with results elsewhere going our way, with Northern managing to pull off a win against Lindeen. So that's kind of eased the pressure on us ever so slightly, especially after our loss at Lindeen a couple of weeks ago. Obviously all our attention now turns to the East Bowl final on Saturday, just a repeat of last year's final, but it's just reverse venues. So obviously we've got to travel to Northern this time. I'm quite happy about. We've had 2 good wins up there over the last 2 seasons, and on the other hand I've lost 2 at home, so it seems to be a good place for us to go and get a result. So hopefully we can continue on that on Saturday and push on to the National Bowl semi-finals, which would be massive for the club. So hopefully we can get a result for the big travel and support that's coming up as well. Squad wise, injuries that we had like Lindeen a few weeks ago, they're all starting to get back to full fitness, so we've got pretty much everybody available that's a player at the club, and which is understandable with it being a cup final. Everybody's wanting to be involved, so we've got our full pool of players to pick from, so we'll be going full strength this weekend and hopefully come away with Northern with a result.
Langham are back in action tomorrow with an away trip to Murrayfield Wanderers. In fact, they've got no more home games this season. Here's their boss, Craig Hislop.
This weekend we head up to Edinburgh to play Murrayfield Wanderers after a few weeks off of League Rugby. Last week the lads travelled over to Portadown to play a side over there and have a social weekend away. So it'll be good for team morale. But it's back to league business this weekend. Our last fixture in the league was against Haddington, where we ended up on the wrong side of a 17-0 defeat. Didn't really fire any shots. Probably put us off the chase for promotion this season. We want to finish strong in the league, so it's important we get a win up at Murrayfield Wanderers. We're sitting mid-table. Squad-wise, we're a bit limited with numbers. The season being a bit broken up at this part of the year, always a problem. But our 15 is a strong 15. We're just lacking some depth on the bench. So here's hoping we get a victory on Saturday.
Into East 2, and Hawick Harlequins are coming off the back of a very good win over Trinity Accies last weekend. Tomorrow they visit Royal High. The captain is Liam Graham.
Hoping to have a good squad this weekend to travel up to Royal High. After last week's good victory against Trinity Accies, it kind of gives us some confidence to travel away from home up in Edinburgh and hopefully come away with some points at least. We know there's going to be a big challenge on our hands. They're a really strong squad up at home. So we know we'll have to be at the top of our game. Hoping to welcome a few other players who were unavailable last week, and unfortunately having to lose a couple from the win last week due to work relation and a player getting called up to the Hawick squad. So hopefully we can still travel up our strong enough squad to come away from Edinburgh with a couple of points. But this is another really crucial game if we're wanting to finish second in the league. We know we're only just a point behind second place at the minute with a good few games in hand on the other teams. So hopefully this will kind of start our kind of charge for second place, and hopefully a win this weekend will kind of cement our place in the top three really for the rest of the season.
In East 3, Duns host Edinburgh University Medics, while Hawick Lindeen are at home to Inverleith in a match kicking off at 3:15 at the Volunteer Park. Latest news from Lindeen's Kieran Murphy.
This Saturday we welcome Inverleith to Volunteer Park. Just looking to bounce back for last weekend's disappointing result and kind of get back on track for probably looking like now finishing second in the league. Last time we went up to Inverleith, we played really well. We scored 11 tries. We played some quick rugby, hard rugby, and so to speak, we were far the better team. But obviously this time at home, nothing's a walkover in rugby. They have got some good forwards and some good players on that side, but we just need to keep them quiet and concentrate on our own game and kind of get back to winning ways. We've got to work hard and see a reaction for the players and kind of get back to where we need to be. This is kind of our game in hand, so to speak. So with Earlston and Edinburgh Northern playing an East Bowl final, unfortunately we just missed out on that. So we've got a chance if we get 5 points to get back to win 6 Earlston. Obviously I still strongly believe that they'll get the job done and win the league, but we need to kind of keep ourselves in contention and pile a little bit of pressure on. And the pressure's on, anybody could slip up, so we just have to do that and kind of do our job and just keep at it and keep winning and kind of just keep building and build a platform for next year. So in terms of the team, most notably Matthew Mallon's back from injury this week, so he'll be good to have back in the side, and everybody else. So last week we kind of came away from Edinburgh Northern without many knocks or anything like that, so we're pretty good for a side this week, and hopefully welcoming a couple of new faces into the team and kind of give boys more a runabout who have sort of been more bench players than that this week, and give them a chance to prove themselves for the last 2 games. So hopefully we can get a win at home and kind of put a smile back on everybody's faces again.
So that's the East League wrapped up. Before we go tonight, I mentioned about the return of the Scottish Cup this year. After all, only 7 teams taking part, including 2 from the Premiership and 5 from National 1. 1 border team included, that's Gala, and already GHA have a bye to the semi-finals. To find out more about how it came about, let's hear from Director of Rugby at Gala, Ewan Swinton.
The Scottish Cup question arose last autumn when all 22 clubs in Nat 1 and the Premiership were approached by someone within the SRU to ask whether there was an interest in participating in a Scottish Cup. So that request came to Gala and was brought to the attention of the executive, and in discussion, we decided that it was something that we should check out with our players and coaches to see whether there was an interest in the tournament, given that we had boycotted last year along with the bulk of the boarders. So we put a poll out, and the poll came back on the positive that both the players and the coaches were up for the competition. So we responded to the SIU that we would consider participating in a Scottish Cup, provided it didn't clash with a border league game. Part of the rationale was that our season was due to end at that point on the 8th of February in terms of league matches. And after that, we only had one border league match scheduled. The rest of them were played. So there was a huge downtime for our players, and that influenced the thought process at Gala. So the next thing that I became aware of was a discussion at the border league meeting one Wednesday when this matter was raised, and it became apparent that some of the representatives of the meeting were aware of the approach and others weren't. But to the best of my recollection, no other border club had agreed to go into the competition, and there had been no discussion around a joint approach at the Border League. I think it's fair to say that one or two were a bit surprised that we had put our hands up for it, but we did emphasise at that point that the Border League was to come first, and that's very much the club's stance. A few weeks ago, a meeting was called by the SIU Competitions Committee organisers, and that was with all those from the two leagues who had indicated that they would possibly participate. And at the end of that meeting, there were in fact 8 teams who were willing to take part. That included ourselves, it included Biggar, who later withdrew, and Stirling County, who later withdrew. But it included Heriots, and Heriots had agreed to take part on the basis of their playing an under-23 team. They will be playing a Premiership fixture against Ayr, as it happens, on the 22nd of March, when the first of the fixtures in the Cup is scheduled. So the Cup draw was made, and it was made on the basis of 6 competing teams. We were drawn against that Heriots team away. The other matches in the quarter-finals were going to involve Glasgow Accies and Highland. Dundee and GHA would be given a bye into the semi-finals. Subsequent to that draw being made, Ayr reappeared on the scene, entering, according to what was handed down from Murrayfield, on the same basis as Heriots. At the meeting to agree that the teams who were going to participate in the competition and to give us the details about it, and indeed they then gave us the dates for the competition, which were 22nd March, 5th of April and 19th of April. Once Ayr came back into the picture in terms of the Cup, there was a slight redraw at Murrayfield involving the 2 teams who had previously been granted a bye to the semis and Ayr, and that resulted in Dundee drawing Ayr in the quarterfinals, with GHA remaining on a bye to the semi-finals.
Well, that sounds rather complicated, doesn't it? The thing hasn't even started yet. March the 22nd, only 70s. My initial thoughts were completely meaningless. Hardly Scottish Cup champions if whoever wins it, calls themselves Scottish champions with only 7 teams. I see the club's point of view. If they're at the end of the season, they want extra games. I don't know. I have mixed thoughts. How do you see it?
Pretty much exactly the same as you, Stuart. You've just about taken the words out of my mouth. I can completely see it from the clubs that want to be involved. I can see it from their point of view. National 1 clubs in particular, when does their rugby end? End of February, start of March, something like that. So there's no rugby. There's very little rugby thereafter, particularly for guys that are not playing sevens. So yeah, it gives them some rugby, and if they get a home game or 2, it's revenue. Let's not forget that side of the game. They need revenue. Heriots and Ayr under 23s. It's like that cup in football that Rangers and Celtic enter their under
Celtic B and Dundee
Celtic B, whatever. Yeah. So I can see their point as well from that point of view. Give some younger guys a run out. The second team potentially, that type of thing. On the flip side, does this have any sporting credibility whatsoever? In my opinion, absolutely none. And if whoever wins it, in inverted commas, this season, the Scottish Cup, if their name is added to the trophy, then frankly it's an affront to the teams that have won it before. I cast my mind back to being at that first final in '95 or whenever it was as an 18-year-old. What an occasion it was. So yeah, it has no credibility whatsoever as the Scottish Cup. I can see why the likes of Gala want to be involved in it, and that's absolutely their prerogative. Boys get rugby, get a bit of revenue if they get a home game, but no, don't anybody talk to me about we won the Scottish Cup if whoever goes on to win it.
OK, so it'll be very interesting to see how things turn out there. But that's it for this edition of the Friday Rugby Preview. We're on air at 2:30 tomorrow with commentary on Melrose against Ayr in the Premiership with Robin. We've also got David Ferguson at Hawick v Hawks, Hugh Brown covering that big Premiership game between Edinburgh Accies and Kelso, and Sam Matthews is at Heriots versus Selkirk. So plenty on offer tomorrow. Remember, you can listen to Rugby Radio at rugbyradio.co.uk and also from the homepage of bordersrugby.net, and our ex-Twitter feed at Borders Scores will bring you all the latest score updates throughout the afternoon. But for now, from Robin and myself, a very good night.
The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.